I decided to make another video for the alarm. The reason being that I decided to add a radar sensor on it. I got it all attached to it, and that's on the same wires for the shock sensor. Now the main thing is to make sure that you match all the wires, obviously green to green, blue to blue, and then you have your red and black for power. The reason I have to tap into the same wires as this sensor is because there is no other sensor input on the alarm here. And right now I just got out of the box and I painted it white so I could see what those letters are, because you can't see it, and that's why you have this smudge here, because I just went like that. But the point I'm trying to make is that, you know, you can add a radar sensor, because this is your basic alarm, but with an extra sensor you have a little more areas to cover. For example, if your dual stage shock sensor is not working, or for whatever reason, like stock cars, they have the alarm when you open the doors and stuff, but they don't have an actual sensor when somebody goes in to activate the alarm. So that's what this one is for, and prevents from people to just you know, trying to do the smash and grab or whatever. You can, sure, they can still do it. That's not gonna stop anybody ever, but at least it'll trigger your alarm if that does happen as well. So for me, this is a basic alarm here. You have your normal shock sensor, and then you have a radar sensor to cover the interior of the car a little more. These, however, can be too sensitive, and especially on convertible cars. But they still work. You know, you just gotta set each one according to your car. And that's the other thing I almost forgot to mention, is that when you're tuning these sensors in the car, you can actually have a sensor on it, an extra sensor on a regular alarm. So far it's been working fine on mine. And what you gotta do is you can just unplug this one to set this one up, dial it in until you get it where you want, and then put this one back, and you can unplug this one, and then just you know, test your car with the radar sensor alone, and then just tweak that first. Tweak it or set it to where you don't get the false alarms and etc. You know, the usual stuff. And once that's working, then you can plug both of them in, and they should work without giving you false alarms. That's the biggest thing, I think, with sensors. The other thing is in here with the trigger wires, which is the green, I think, and the green and the blue on this sensor. I mean, it might be different on other sensors. Is that you need a diode on each one so that they don't interfere with each other. That way, this one works independently of your radar and vice versa. But in order to set them up, that's how I like to do it. Just do one at a time first and plug the other one until you get it right, and that way you don't get those false alarms. So here's what I have. I bought this a long time ago off eBay, 100 pieces, IN or IN 404. I put, oh, I don't have the link on there, but you can always look up the diodes for car alarms and things like that, or what to use. And these are 1 amp, 400 volts, which are used on door locks, relays, starters, whatever. So that's why I want to cover this, and I actually want to show you how it works, because it's on the desk. I haven't plugged it into my 12-volt power supply without being in the car, because we're just testing the sensors, nothing else, at least for these two. And then you can see, you can check to make sure you got it correctly. Correctly set up. And obviously right now it's very sensitive, but that, again, you know, you do it once everything is installed, but I like to do it on the bench just to make sure things are working correctly. So the alarm is on. Let me see if I can give you a demo here real quick. So I'm going to turn it on or lock it. So it's locked, and I am going to just tap this one to get the green light. But if you look at the other sensor, well, I think it turns on. It shouldn't, but I forgot. So let's see, just a light tap. Okay, that completely triggered it, and that's not what I was trying to do. So let me do that again. Turn it on. Just a light tap to get the green. There you go. So the reason that one's coming on is because the sensor is very sensitive, and when I move, it triggers. So see the same thing. So if I move, see, it triggers. So that's how I know they're both working. But right now I just want to make sure I do this. Without moving. So you saw that my sliders move and that thing triggers. So now I'm just going to trigger here without moving too much. So that's working. So now I'm going to back away, and then I'm going to arm it, and then I'm just going to move my hand off this camera here, because if I go here, it'll just trigger it. So I'm trying to stay far away, but that way you'll see that I'm only triggering from there and not this. So I'm going to raise my arm until it gives me the green. There. So you see, it does work. And the light on the shock sensor doesn't do anything. So right now I'm raising my arm again. There we go. The sensor detected, and I get the notice. Now if I do the red or trigger it with all the way, look what happens. The alarm triggers and you didn't see anything happen here, so far it seems to be working correctly. So it's unlocked, and I'm gonna go farther and just unplug this one to show you that it's still working correctly. Okay, I did it a little too hard. Right now the sensor seems to be very sensitive, so let me the buttons are kind of hard to press on this thing, so that's why you see it not working. So let me go ahead and try to do that again. So just get a nice tap. That's a nice tap, so it is working. And then again, I got my full alarm. So I'm not liking these buttons too much. You have to really press them hard or farther down, and you know they're harder to get to. So I'm not too crazy about them. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug this, and I'm just going to plug my radar sensor, and we'll use just that. So I'll go ahead and trigger it or arm it. Let's see if there we go. So my sensor is working, and I moved again right now because that's why it got triggered. Alright, so let me try that again. Again, I'm not using this sensor here. So let me do a light move over here. Okay. So that's good. So let me trigger it now. And there you go. So now you can see that both sensors are working individually. That doesn't need to be plugged in when this one is, or vice versa. So that's what you want. You want to have two different sensors working, and that's the way to do it. The only hard part is trying to get the diodes solder in there, and you know, all that good stuff. But that's why you do it on the bench, because it allows you to do it a lot better. I have my soldering station here, so I can do this on the bench, and at the same time you can test this on the bench and make sure that those are working. Now the only thing that needs to be done is get it installed and tweak the settings, and that takes a little more time, because you know, you're gonna unplug one and then you just do the other one. And just on this particular sensor though, one thing to remember is that the first stage needs to be moved a tiny bit before you can actually set the second one. I don't know how it's on other sensors, but that's what this one is, and this is small enough to put almost anywhere. Not only that, but it comes with a pretty nice long wire here, so that can be moved wherever you like. I'm trying to see if I'm forgetting anything else other than the basic alarm. I mean, these are the two sensors that you normally want to have in a car. I usually do this too, just to make sure there's a little more sensors on the car versus just the one that, you know, people can bump in there. This one, nobody has to bump anything, just be inside the interior, and then it'll work. This normally will work on pretty much any car, but obviously a bigger car, it's gonna need it's gonna be a little different than versus a small car that this two can cover. Other than that, I think I covered everything, and I just kind of wanted to do a video because this is the stuff that you normally don't see on how to do, or what's the best way to do anything. I mean, there's more than one way to skin a cat, I guess is the saying, but you know, that's what it is, and I hope that helps you, because it gives you a little more areas you can protect in the different ways, and hopefully nobody, well, at least not your average crazy guy or person on the street will try to screw on with your car like that. You know, there are some people that just screw with other people's things for no reason, so there you go. At least if you get some crazy neighbors, then hopefully that will keep them from messing with your car at least. Remember, this is mainly convenience. Nothing's foolproof, so you can only do what you can do, and you know, that's pretty much it. So there you go. Okay, going back to this, I forgot to mention two more things, I think. Now that we have the sensors covered, another thing that you don't want to forget to check is the height of your pin switches, because you can have all this set up correctly, but if your pin switches are not opening or closing correctly when you close and open your doors, I mean your hood or your trunk, that's going to give you plenty of false alarms, and you're going to drive yourself crazy. So always make sure that those are working correctly and closing properly, or opening when you close your trunk or hood, because if those don't work correctly, I guarantee you are going to have I don't know, so many complaints, aside from pretty mad neighbors to who knows what, but you don't want anybody, you know, annoying anybody with that. And once you have those sensors, these sensors and the pin switches all set up, you should have an alarm that works for as long as you know, as long as you have it, I think. The other thing I forgot to mention is the wires. This is so long and they're loose, so I put a lot of cable ties, as you can see. So when you're routing, or I know this is not going to be a big problem, but if you're like trying to route something with cable ties, it's going to be hard, depending on your setup. The reason I do it is because the cars, should be fine. But what I want to mention is that you can also use wire loom. They have different sizes of wire looms that you can use on top of this, and then that way you can hide your wires even more. And then just use a wire loom on this to just to make it even more neater. This is obviously for my personal stuff here, but and I know you can't do this for every car and every customer, and that's a different issue. But on your own car, if you really want to do something like that or something really unique, you can go and do that as well, and that should keep it running, assuming everything works fine in different weathers. Then it should be okay. So I just want to add that to this video, because I totally forgot to mention that on the other last two videos that I did. And I'm hoping that this one will work as it should, and I don't expect anything from the alarm itself to go bad, so hopefully that'll just work and not give me any problems, which you could have other problems in the car with some other things not working correctly, and that can cause you headaches. But that's why you want to check the alarm and your setup on the bench, because now that I know everything is working, or at least the main components are working correctly, any other problems, I know I have to figure out what it is, but I know this system, at least here, is working the way it's supposed to, until I plug everything else. Then if the door doesn't open or whatever, that's a whole different story. But those are other wires that you have to figure out. But I just wanted to add that on there just to make sure that I cover everything. So thanks for watching.